Alright, I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Battlefield 6 is a mess, and now the devs have openly confirmed it. For a game that promised a higher skill curve, better quality, return to form, Battlefield 6 has been slipping, and doing so fast, with 6 in every 7 PC players putting down the game. And with the devs' recent postponement of their $1 million RedSec tournament, my theory is becoming fact. And at the end of the day, it's simple. The fact is, at some point, yes, the footstep audio did in fact get cut out and get you killed. Yes, the defibs failed you in strike point and made you lose that round. Yes, your bullets did appear to hit on your screen but ghosted on the server. Yes, the menus and UI have been broken time and time again. And yes, the game is stuttering like shit, and it's not your fault. Battlefield 6 isn't polished, and it damn sure isn't ready for a $1 million pro tournament. Now, legacy bugs and hidden problems aren't anything new for the franchise. In fact, I'd say most Battlefield players are used to netcode controversies and broken player visibility. But the devs' recent need to market and push the game into as many hands as possible as EA targets 100 million accounts and ramped up for a $1 million pro tournament has created an environment where honest complaints are underplayed while the live service needs to race ahead with failing core mechanics like netcode, big issues like ghost bullets, and broken gameplay like the current state of the defibs, because the game's optics are now far too important when it comes to customers' concerns or delaying content in the interest of game stability. The game has simply become too big to fail. In its current form, with current objectives, the game has needed to rush forward with its live service while still featuring game-breaking bugs, which has finally caught up to them as they've needed to postpone their big push into esports with an embarrassing crash and burn of their RedSec Elite series. But while Update 1.1.3 introduced some massive new problems, my favorite recent issue has been the audio, something fans have been debating for months, and it just recently saw its first large update, which exposed how busted the game has been. But after all the playtesting, the pretty trailers, and Game Awards nominations, there couldn't possibly be anything wrong, right? Aside from some tweets from Florian and a recent focus within Battlefield Labs, footstep audio was a niche issue that those crazy streamers just used as an excuse to bitch about. Well, no. In fact, according to Update 1.1.3, footstep audio wasn't just a real issue that had been downplayed, the game was in need of an entire audio suite update as the mechanic was broken at a core level. Just listen to these patch notes. We've also continued addressing performance and memory issues that could cause sounds such as footsteps or vehicle audio to drop out or fail to play, especially during large-scale Battle Royale matches. To get ahead of this, as we add more audio content to the game, we've adjusted the memory priorities for most sounds in the game and optimized how some larger audio assets load. In practical terms, this means that important combat movement and vehicle sounds should play more consistently even under heavy load. In reality, this was a nice corporate way of saying, yep, footstep audio and other core gameplay audio would simply just not load sometimes. And it's just hilarious to me how defiantly people will fight to defend the game when it comes to problems like this. That there couldn't possibly be any truth to the complaints, while longtime Battlefield vets know that more likely than not, that there's always some crazy bug that DICE will have to admit at some point. And this isn't the only example of this sort of gaslighting happening. Rewind a few weeks when Stode reported that snipers had random bullet deviation depending on your class, although this wasn't directly conveyed to players. Or how the lead game designer Florian had to come out and directly admit that ghost bullets were a real thing, and how the game's recoil literally fights against you with an algorithm. Battlefield 6 isn't just a mess, it's been gaslighting you. For months you've been told to look at the pretty new content, and that all those things you think are bugs are really just your skill issues. That you need to get good or burst fire, but while Battlefield 6 is certainly a higher skill game, The fact is, the audio, the recoil, the hit reg, the netcode, and so on have all been fighting against you at one point or another. And we're finally to such a point of instability that the game's big esports initiative has come to a sudden halt. The harsh truth is, the optics of Battlefield are more important than ever right now, but Battlefield is still Battlefield. Between the game's failing attempt at a RedSec Pro Series, jump into the free-to-play Battle Royale market, and public push to achieve 100 million accounts, Battlefield 6 can't be seen as weak. It can't be seen as having game-breaking issues like audio bugs, netcode instability, or falling player counts, although the game is slowly trending downwards with RedSec viewership totally falling off, while Warzone stays strong even with fewer active players. Now, in all respect, Battlefield 6 is far and away in a better spot than its nearest peer, Black Ops 7, and certainly has had higher highs than its horrific little brother, 2042. And while the devs have certainly been working around the clock to get these fixes out, updates like 1.1.3 feel a little late and bring issues of their own, especially after all the hype given to Battlefield Labs, which I believe at this point was more of a PR stunt than an honest test environment, because there's no way they'd be confident with the game's performance if they'd actually had months of data like they say they do. When it comes to the optics and live service, it feels like Battlefield 6 is putting the cart before the horse. We didn't need a Battle Royale to release when it did. We didn't need a venture into esports just yet. And modes like Gauntlet, which are the basis of the game's competitive scene, are still fundamentally broken, like when you can't interact with objectives.
I can't pick it up.
But at the very core of my feelings about Battlefield 6 is this. The devs are making a conscious decision with Battlefield 6 to lean more into skill curve, meta, and a scene that involves esports and Twitch viewership. They added a Battle Royale, paid off huge streamers, and are really making an effort to test out competitive modes, all of which are independently fine ideas, but again have put the cart before the horse, as players are told everything is a-okay, even when it's not. Someone like Tim the Tapman played RedSec twice, said he loved it, and then never touched it again. Because on a normal day, RedSec sits at about 2,000 Twitch viewers at night and 45,000 followers, while Warzone has tens of thousands a night and 22 million followers. All the while, the game's forced inclusion of a Battle Royale has rubbed fans the wrong way. And while these aspects like streamers might not matter to you, it's where EA is looking to expand. And so far, the exchange of real Battlefield fans for the competitive streamer scene isn't working. And I can't imagine being a casual player right now, feeling the burn from all these hidden issues, and being gaslit into forcing yourself to love the game, to then only be told, oh yeah, that thing you thought was an issue was in fact broken. We just didn't want to say anything until we fixed it. At this point, Battlefield seems to not be for the faint of heart anymore, and as the player base shrinks, the sweat ramps up, and initiatives get delayed, new, low-level free-to-play players will be burned by getting forced into either Gauntlet or a B-list Battle Royale, and casual fans will churn under the frustration, grind, and slipping cultural relevance. Battlefield 6 is a great game deep down, but the more I play, the more I have trouble simply enjoying myself. And I've found myself distrustful of the devs and unsure about EA's plan for the future of the game as updates fumble and game-breaking bugs go on for weeks even after years of development. The content is mostly solid, and I actually want to see the game's smaller competitive modes do well. But for the average player, the guy who doesn't read patch notes, or who's just looking to jump into the core modes and play just a few hours a week, the grind might be too much. The cluttered and broken menus are distracting, and the endless foundational bugs are draining. At this point, it's hard to keep up even as someone who dedicates my free time to creating content, and I've gotten to the point I really don't trust anything I'm told. The game and its studios seem like they're dedicated to quieting any dissent, rushing content forward, and hosting esports tournaments even if it means risking some very embarrassing moments like we've already seen.
What the fuck, game?
But guys, let me know how you're feeling about the current state of the game. I really want this game to do great, and I honestly think there's no reason it can't stay on top. But between the bugs, gaslighting, and focus on RedSec that's not working, like I said, it feels like the devs are putting the cart before the horse. So drop those comments below and let me know what you think. Are you still playing, or have you started to move on? For everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe. And as always, thank you guys for watching.